As of next week, New Mexico will get about 72,000 vaccines from the federal supply line. While it's an increase, certainly that weekly allotment is not enough. The state is vaccinating everyone it can get its hands on, literally. But right now, there are far more waiting arms than shots to stick them in. Our Line Opinion panel is here this week to evaluate the state's plan and how it's changing as new providers like Walgreens and CVS come into the picture. Joining us, trio of Line regulars, former State Senator Dianne Snyder is back. Always good to see you. Her former colleague from across the aisle, Dee Dee Feldman, returns as well. And last but certainly not least, former House Minority Whip Daniel Foley checks in. Senator Snyder, I'd like to begin with you. What do you make of the hunt for vaccine and how the state is addressing it? Just that simple. I'm curious of your opinion.
Truthfully, I think it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Now, once you're there and getting your shot, it works very smoothly and that people are efficient and they're very kind and gracious. But I have to use some personal examples of things I've seen. I cannot tell you how many people have told me, or I've heard conversations or seen Facebook postings where they have shared their event code and gotten in to get their shots, yes, and they don't meet the top category. The top category is over 75 or over 74, I believe, or over 65 with an underlying condition. One of the things
75, no. Senator?
Yeah. 75, yeah.
No.
And then, no, not right?
No, well, okay. The second part is that you can be over 16 but have underlying
16,
condition.
But have an underlying condition.
But at least
You're
one.
Right.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But one of those things. Mm-hmm. Well, I registered on January the 5th. I registered my mother a week later. 2 days later, she got her code, and she's 94. Okay. So we got her shot. She immediately got her second. We've gone and gotten her second. Mm-hmm. I am still waiting to get an event code. And I'm over 16, obviously. I have an underlying condition.
Barely.
Absolutely. But I'm on chemotherapy. I have another serious underlying condition with my heart, and I'm 72 years old, and I still haven't been contacted. I tried calling, an hour and a half on the telephone with no answer, gave up then. I have sent 3 emails and finally got one back that said, sorry, you'll just have to wait your turn.
Wow.
Not addressing at all my issues and my concern, because I'm also my 94-year-old mother's caretaker. And I don't want to be bringing things home for her.
Yep.
Well, I have found others very similar to me. I've heard where one spouse has gotten it and the other spouse hasn't. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on with the system of identifying who gets the shot. But when I took Mother to get her shots, we went down to the pit. That's where her place was. Mm-hmm. I never saw so many people in their 40s, early 50s, people getting shots.
Right.
And this was before we started doing teachers and some of the essential workers. I mean, it's just terrible. I don't know how. I'm
hearing similar things, Senator, as well, of folks in line seeing others who are not in that place. And Dan, let me ask you this. My understanding is about 35% of our folks over 75 have been at least gotten the first shot already. That's not a whole lot, certainly. And you push it up against what Senator Snyder just mentioned in her story of her and her mom. What's your sense of how this is, again, rolling out? Is the governor on top of this, or is it now at the point now, we got Walgreens and CVS that I mentioned, it's out of her hands now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this whole process for, regardless of what position you're in politically is kind of a bucket of worms, right? I mean, it's all kind of the first time, first new. I think that people forget, and when they start talking nationally, they'll talk about, well, we got all these dosages in New Mexico, and then they start, then you start worrying about the internal New Mexico fight between rural and urban, trying to get that stuff out. How do you get people in Wagon Mound the shot, and how are you expecting them to drive down to Albuquerque? The shots only last so long. There's date codes. There's keeping them frozen. I mean, keeping them in unbelievable temperatures.
Dan, let me ask you this: What do you make? Let me ask you this though. What did you make of the statement from our Secretary Designate Tracy Collins who said providers are responsible for knowing and following phase requirements. Is she passing the buck here? What do you make of that?
So, I mean, it depends, right? I mean, we heard the same thing from Governor DeSantis in Florida, right? When he said, when Governor Ron DeSantis kind of got pigeonholed by CNN saying there's people sleeping outside. And he said, whoa, hold on a second. We're not vaccine distributors as the government. We don't know how to do this. So we went to the places that do this and said, okay, tell us what you need and providing it to you. And if that's what we're doing in New Mexico, if we're going to the people who have done this before and they're dropping the ball, they should be held accountable, but still the individuals who chose them have the ultimate responsibility, right? The buck stops with the governor and the administration. So I think there is some validity to the statement. Is the government the ones deploying, you're kind of going to get it right. You're going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If you decide to take over the inoculation process yourself, hey, I'm the governor, I'm going to implement an inoculation process. You don't know how to do that. If you go to the private sector folks and say, look, you're the guys who do this. I'm glad to see
I hear that.
Glad to see the CVS and Walgreens, but I don't think it helps rural New Mexico.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dee Dee, interestingly, when you think about it, we've got such a long way to go. 800,000 plus still need to be vaccinated in our state. And we're not even that populous a state. So that, you can see what's going on here. I ask again, is the governor in a bit of a pickle here now that these others are jumping in? Can she control all of this and keep it in her hands?
Well, I think that's the challenge, to use a centralized system that is consistent, that is science and ethically based, but and make sure that the computer system is hooked into the distributors, whether they be hospitals or whether they be clinics, whether they be pharmacies. This has to be coordinated with some sort of central list. There's some problems there. It's obvious. But let me just say that there will always be complaints because of the fear that folks have of this disease. Anyone that has not gotten the vaccine will be unhappy with the system as it exists now. It's just the nature of the beast, because we all want it and the supply is limited. And so rolling it out is always going to be very, very difficult.
Let me ask you this. We've seen reporting about New Mexicans going to Amarillo to get shots. Texas is giving folks 65 and over, come and get it. No harm, no foul. Doesn't matter who you are. Is that a better system?
I really don't know that it's a better system. It seems to me that we in New Mexico statistically have vaccinated more of our population than all but 3 other states. And so we've got to realize that we're doing something right here. And
I was talking to a guy yesterday who's partially in New Mexico, partially in California, family still in New Mexico. He registered in both states and he got the shot faster in New Mexico than he did in California. So he drove out, got his first shot, went back to his home in Palm Springs, came back the other day to get his second shot. I think there's a couple of these, and I'm not being an apologist for the governor. I think at the end of the day, we've had 800,000 people vaccine, but I think we also
left to go. 800,000 left to go.
Diane raises a great question, right? I mean, she's a perfect example. No one can call into question what's happened to her, right? She's got all the underlying conditions, age. Why is she not getting it? More importantly, why is she getting a response that says, pound sand? But we also have to remember at the end of the day, we're a state of 1.8 million people, of which over 1 million people do not live in the urban area. They live in the outlying areas. And for those that aren't, it's hard to get someone like Diane's mom, if she lived in Wagon Mound, to get the time to get them here, get her into a place, get this done. And so I think, if you're looking at, we got 800,000 people out of 1.8 million left to vaccinate. I'm not sure that that's really a failing grade to the extent that you've got, 1 million of the 1.8 million population.
Let me make a point on that, Dan. You make a very good point on the rural part of our population. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine specifically, it's only one shot, as we know, and the State Department of Health says it's a much easier to get to rural areas, has a better shelf characteristics for underserved populations. Dee Dee, is this a good solution? I mean, when I say good, it's in finger quotes because the percentages are not as good as the double shot dose.
Well, that requires people in the rural areas to have patience, which is in very short supply right now. And I think, just to go back to an earlier point, in terms of the injustices or the inconsistencies of the current system, I think that the state is relying on a randomized selection process within each category to distribute appointments, which is the reason why some folks that have very serious conditions have not, but do qualify for this round of shots, are not called yet. And so this randomized process, I think, is creating some problems. But I'm not sure that there is any other way to do it, to be fair. And, when it comes to people over 75 also, I think it's 44% of the people who have taken advantage of it now. And I think you have to factor in some other things. And that is that quite a few of those folks do not have access to a computer, and don't have a great advocate like a daughter like Diane. And so they have not had the help they need to get those shots.
We're going to have to end it there.
I just want to add one,
Real
if I
quick.
may, just one quick thing.
Please.
We were talking about Walmart and all those, the pharmacies. Well, on February 4th, I happened to have an appointment at Presbyterian for something else. And when I came in, they said, "We have vaccine today. Would you like to have a shot?"
No kidding.
And I said, yes, but it was luck of the draw that they had it that day. And they report it back into the state. And yet nothing on the website on my listing has changed. But so I would like, if Prez has got offices, and that's just one example,
Sure.
all over the state.
I appreciate
rural areas.
that. It's
Yeah.
about the reporting up. When you go to the Walgreens site, it kicks you to the state site. There's just a lot of different things
Yes.
going on there. It's
Yeah.
difficult. We're going to take a break with this group, and we're back in a few minutes to talk Deb Haaland's nomination and her hearing coming up next week.